Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special program on NewsX, our NewsX Business World special series on the economic stimulus package announced by the government of India. Yes, Prime Minister Modi last week announced that 20 lakh crore economic stimulus, which totals up to 10% of our GDP. The FM has, of course, given us the details on which are the sectors they're allocating it to and the reform measures announced by the government. But how is this being perceived by India Inc. and corporate India? That's what we're attempting to do in this series. Like always, we have a very special panel joining us today on the broadcast. Mehul Agarwal, co-founder and COO of Fast24 is live with us. Vivek Tiwari, founder and CEO Medica Bazaar is live with us. AS Rajgopal, MD and CEO NextGen Infinite Data Center is joining us live. Dr. A. Velumani, founder, chairman and MD, Hyrocare Technologies joins us live. Rajiv Jain, Director, Rashi Entertainment is with us on the broadcast. V. Lakshmi Kumaran, Managing Partner, Lakshmi Kumaran Sridharan Attorneys is also with us. Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, Businessworld and Exchange for Media Group is also live with us as always. And we're also being joined this evening by Dr. Nitin Parekh, CFO, Gadila Healthcare. Welcome all of you gentlemen to the show.
Thank you.
Let me begin with Mehul Agarwal, if I can. Now, Mehul Agarwal, my first question to you, your first reading of that package that has been announced, the measures, what is your analysis of it? What are your main takeaways from it? Before I get to your sector specific, what are your overall views on it?
Yeah, thanks Uday for having me here. So, frankly, I think after reading the stimulus and the reform package details, which of course got shared over the last week, my frank initial reaction has been it's definitely, I think on supply side, there are tons of initiatives which do impact, I think, how supply side stimulus is going to happen. They, however, seem more oriented towards medium and long term. I think that urgency on the short term side, especially to stimulate demand, hasn't come across very strongly. But I'm much more focused on the auto sector and would definitely be able to talk in much more details around that.
And that's the sector I was just going to come to, in fact, which you represent, a sector which was already reeling, and needed some sort of aid or help. But of course, this lockdown and the pandemic has just made things very worse. April, in fact, recorded zero revenue, zero sales, apart from a few exports which went out for the auto sector. So in terms of the auto sector, what is the situation right now, Mehul, and what's the sort of aid that you expect right now from the government that is still realistically feasible? And what's the auto sector's next 2-3 months looking like?
Yeah, I think overall, of course, auto sector has been under tremendous pressure over the last 15 to 18 months. I think BS4 to BS6 transition itself has been a big impact. It's quite unfortunate while we were on the cusp of just finally getting to the end of that transition is when COVID impacted and further everything came to a halt. I have two perspectives there. One, I think in general, for the economy, of course, it's a massive impact, and auto representing 8% of GDP, there is no way it is not going to get impacted by it. That said, what I think situationally is happening is auto as a category is seeing a lot of uptake in terms of consumer interest to now own a car. And not just car, but also two-wheelers or other personal transport vehicles, because people want to practice social distancing, people want to avoid contact, and that is, I think, one new trend which we are seeing to emerge. So, a couple of surveys that we did, to our customers and to different car owners and car buyers that we had in our database, that showed a very strong interest where people from, using public transport or private transport, cabs, etc., to travel, are actively showing interest to switch to own cars or own bikes. So 65% of them actually want to own cars. So that definitely, I think, shows a lot of positive interest towards owning a vehicle. We have started our business as well over the last 2 weeks, and we are seeing a positive uptake slowly.
Okay, that's a very interesting point that you're making. That is this scare right now of COVID-19 actually impacting public transport, basically of people being anywhere where they can be in close proximity of others, actually may lead to a further demand in privately owned vehicles, be it four-wheelers or two-wheelers. So that's a ray of hope.
Uday,
That's some positivity. Yes, Dr. Batra.
It is not just about India. In China, when 25 days back the lockdown got over, actually the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler demand just went through the roof.
Yeah.
So we may see a similar situation in India. What I'd like to know from Mehul is, do you think the government should have done something specifically for your sector? And if yes, what is it? So we will think about what more you need from the government and what's in the package that directly impacts your industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think, frankly, the current package is not auto sector specific at all. There is an impact which will flow down based on the other liquidity measures that have been taken. But I would have loved to see direct impact on the auto sector. Three things that come to my head. One, something which people have been highlighting for a long time, impact on GST rates that apply to the sector. Cars, especially luxury cars, have GSTs which are more than 28%. Buses, trucks, etc. still have GST at 28%. That is incredibly high. And any support on that side, even if it is short term, even if it is for next 6 to 12 months, I think can make a massive impact on stimulating demand. Because the industry is reeling on the back of increased prices, especially after the BS6 transition. So GST rate cut, I think, would have been a fantastic support. There is also a talk of scrappage policy, which India has been having now for last many quarters. I think recent communication has been around this is being finalized. I think expediting that and getting it launched can be a great enabler again, because a scrappage policy in place again stimulates the demand of new purchases while helping people liquidate or scrap their old cars. So that would have been a positive. And the third point, I think, is the liquidity measures. If there could be a direct support for dealerships that exist on both new and used car side, because last 2.5 months they have been sitting on massive inventory levels without having almost a single sale, and that has pretty much eroded a lot of margins.
I'll come back to you in just a bit. Let's get in some of the others before we dive straight into the healthcare sector, because we have quite a few of our panelists who belong to that sector. So it's great that we can get their views on the broadcast as well. I just want to touch upon two other panelists. Rajiv Jain first, Director, Rashi Entertainment. Rajiv, your initial takeaways from what you heard from the Finance Minister and what the government has been laying out.
So Uday and Anurag, thank you very much for inviting. Basically, when all this started, we were first thinking that a lot of relief will be given to the entire entertainment sector, aviation sector, and hotel sector. Trust on me, nothing has been done by the Finance Minister, and the government has not done anything as far as that is concerned. Our association, our industry, and other associations have also given various representations to every government body, including Ms. Sitaraman, Mr. Thakur, and all the ministers which are concerned. And we were expecting some kind of relief. You need to understand that everything is on a standstill. The planes are standing, the hotels are closed, the entertainment, the business that we are into, which the wedding business and the corporate business, which comprise of 3 lakh crore rupees, is on a complete standstill because of the social distancing thing. There was a relief that was being expected, but it is a complete zero thing, and that was not expected out of this finance ministry. So we were quite surprised seeing this package. I tried to understand this for 5 days that, is there something coming for us? But there was nothing which was coming for us. We tried to enter into the MSME sector also, but the kind of business we are into, there are very less organization that is being registered into MSMEs. So there was no relief practically for 5% of entertainment companies is what is there. You have to understand, Mehul, that the business of wedding is a very large business in the country just now. 3 lakh crore business is what I'm talking about. Every celebration brings a lot of happiness to the face of all the panelists and all the people of this 130 crore country that we are talking about. You have to keep the happiness quotient happening. You have to see that, these people who are bringing happiness to your homes, these people are making travel happen to your home. You have to do something for that.
And also in terms of, you mentioned the entertainment, right now shootings are stalled as well. There are no shootings happening.
The shootings are installed. There are no television serials getting made. The sectors are complete. The small performers, you need to understand, who used to perform in the hotels every day, they are not getting the food anytime. We were expecting some kind of...
Rajiv, what would you have then wanted the finance minister to do? I know the weddings will come back in November and hopefully it will do well, but what are the specific asks that you have from the government and from the finance minister? What could they have done to get your sector going?
आज हम लोग ने उनसे कुछ ज्यादा नहीं मांगा था. जो हमारी रिप्रेजेंटेशंस उनके पास में गई थी, we were looking for reliefs as far as all the payments which are being stuck up in our government projects. Couple of thousand crores are being stuck up there कि आप उनको रिलीज कर दीजिए. आज जो भी प्रोविडेंट फंड के ऊपर जो रिलैक्सेशन आप बाकी सारी इंडस्ट्री को दे रहे हैं, वो हमारी इंडस्ट्रीज को दीजिए. आप जितना रेवेन्यू इनफ्लो और जो आप लोन्स आसान कर सकते हैं, द साइज ऑफ एजेंसीज लाइक व्हाट आई रन, they can survive, not a problem, because we run on a very orthodox manner. There are a couple of companies like that, but there are 90% of the companies which runs on an every day, every month recovery basis. So that has created a huge kind of impact in the industry. And every day I'm seeing one or the other company.
Cash flow support. What Rajiv Jain is saying, cash flow, working capital, cash flow support, possibly a direct money transfer for employees like in Canada, like in UK. I think that's what Rajiv Jain is
like
saying.
in Singapore, and this is entertainment industry. You have to keep these people happy. They will give you happy.
Let's take that to V. Lakshmi Kumaran now, if we can. V. Lakshmi Kumaran, your main takeaways, sir.
Just to tell you about Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran, you know, he was in the government service, then he became a lawyer, started a law firm, and his law firm employs more than 400 people, has more than 60 partners, and it's a big advisor to very large corporates on tax matters. So he talks to CFOs, CEOs, promoters, government on a daily basis. Both. So, you know, and he also does advise the government of India on a lot of WTO issues, taxes. He's one of India's foremost expert on taxes. Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran.
Oh, thank you, sir. What I understand in today's packages here, as everybody mentioned, that there is no special packages for the auto industry or the entertainment industry, etc., etc. I think the government is now looking at the rural poor and urban poor as the first priority for them, and rightly so. And they are definitely putting the money in their pocket directly. A lockdown has affected lots of people. As far as the government is concerned, any incentive to give increased production, etc., by tax incentives are concerned, that already announced already last year in the income tax, and the finance minister does not have much of elbow room in granting exemption to GST because it has to approve the GST council. And therefore, I can understand the agony of the automobile sector where the tax rates are very high. I agree with them, but unilaterally, finance minister cannot make a statement because of the constitutional limitations. But what I find is that the government is focused on increasing the liquidity. I think liquidity seems to be the mantra as far as these particular packages are concerned. Everything is surrounding that. And this, I think, is going to be the stimulus for the increasing the, once the money is available, then demand will come, and therefore the supplies will also be higher. And the focus after the rural poor and urban poor is now shifting to the MSME sector. Lot has been done, lot more can be done. And nothing to say that it is enough. But with the limited available funds, I think they have done this. But more important things, subtle things have been done, which probably people might not have noticed. For example, for the government procurement, they have said up to 200 crores, there will be no global tender. It will be only the local purchases. That's a good thing. And MSME sector definition has been redefined, which is again going to bring a lot more people under the category of MSME sectors. And if you look at the question relating to kickstarting the economy, because everybody is standing still, how do you do it? The only way is, first of all, see that IBC provisions are immediately taken care. Several sections have been suspended so that people do not bring action against the companies defaulting, saying that they must go for liquidation. That's a very important step that has been done. And I would say that banking sector, MSME sector, including the NBFC, where the government gives sovereign guarantee for 20% of this credit limit, etc., is a bold decision. And first year moratorium and then interest cap and all these things. These are the things which I think are going to be in the hands of the government. I think at this point of time, I'll stop here. Just
Okay, and we on that point, of course, we expect some follow up by the RBI as well. But that's fantastic because and it's great that we got a background to you and what you've done in your legacy for our viewers as well. Because this is an insider perspective, Dr. Batra, coming in today from someone who's actually been in governance, in bureaucracy. And interestingly, the point that Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran was making there, that this perhaps is an initial step by the government, and their focus was different right now. And that's the point you've also been raising, isn't it, Dr. Batra, on our previous
Not only that, Uday,
now we can expect sector-specific measures to be taken in the future.
at some stage, maybe not immediately.
Yeah.
But the point I've been making on the broadcast with you and other NewsX colleagues is that entrepreneurs have built their businesses with their own enterprise, with their own innovation, with their own frugal resources, right? And that's the point Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran was making to me when I was preparing for the show in the evening. And he's really a reservoir of knowledge. So what he said to me was exactly what we've been echoing, that yes, more is needed. That's a reality. There is expectation in the industry that more liquidity measures are needed, and the reforms are good. But we need front loading of capital just now, and the execution of what has been announced. And that's what he exactly said. And I'm sure we'll come back to him on what else.
Front loading is needed, and entrepreneurs shouldn't just put up their hands right now. Continue the good work, because that's what's made them to where they've reached so far. It doesn't mean if a lockdown comes or if a pandemic comes that they leave everything. Continue hard and hope for some support from the government as well. And that's why these conversations are important, because this is going to the powers that be as well. They're also watching our series. They're also listening to feedback. So let's hope some of these suggestions are acted upon as well. Let's take that to some of the other experts on the panel, and let's talk a bit about the healthcare sector as well. Dr. Velumani, let me begin with you first. Your takeaways from what the government has announced, and is it truly a good time for the healthcare sector? Right now, I know it's people are saying that at the end of the day, this is a time of profit for the industry. Healthcare is a service as well, but yes, there is a lot of business to be made, and it is also a contributor to GDP. So is this a time when healthcare can really be stepped up in the country? Is more funding needed? So far, what's been done by the government, is it adequate? Because we've seen a lot of announcements for the healthcare sector, specifically local hospitals and local healthcare setups across the country as well.
Right. So as far as the package is concerned, बहुत कुछ बोला है, लगता है कुछ मिला है. And it is claimed that 10% of the GDP is spent, but it is debated that it is not even 1.52%. But I believe at least 5% of GDP has come in directly, indirectly, through top of the pyramid or directly to the bottom of the pyramid. It all is a matter of wordings, and it certainly is a package. Having said that, for a country with $2,000 per capita income, we can't compare it with any other Western world where $40,000 per capita income are there. So let us not look at was it too good or it is too bad. It is something which has come inside. Yes, a lot of things have to be done in healthcare. Government had been spending only 2% of GDP in healthcare, whereas Western counterparts have been spending around 17-18% GDP. So I think the government has understood we were underprepared. Our infrastructure is not adequate. So a lot of money which has been given as package, lot goes into curing the pandemic, identifying and treating. So a lot of money has come into healthcare. So I must tell you, healthcare should not sit and grumble that we didn't get enough. Having said that, this pandemic opens a new opportunity for healthcare, because man so far was chasing too many things and health too little. Obviously, because he felt that lifestyle disorders are easy to manage. But then today you are having diseases or infection or something known as COVID, something known as very dangerous. So lot will be spent on COVID. There was no vertical existing as COVID till today. I am of that opinion. 24 months from today, COVID and non-COVID vertical will be 50-50, which means there will be additional 100% business available for the entire healthcare industry. And if at all, if you take all the industries, the most promising, most surging, most powerful CAGR will be for healthcare for next 10 years.
Okay.
It has to be acknowledge.
Okay, let's get in Dr. Parekh also then. Dr. Nitin Parekh at that point. Another eminent voice from the healthcare sector.
For this NewsX panel discussion. So let me begin by saying that I would first like to give views which are general views rather than taking pharma sector views. Our celebrated heroine Vidya Balan in Dirty Pictures, he gave mantra of entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. And I think this government is giving us mantra of liquidity, liquidity, liquidity. And I, to that extent, echo what Lakshmi Kumaran said, that the government focus right now is to support the survival. The growth comes next. First, you need to survive this difficult time. And therefore, the liquidity is the most important. Today, as a corporate also, what we are managing, what we are not managing on a day-to-day basis is liquidity. So we established a liquidity office, is a daily cash flow position, weekly cash flow projection, fortnightly, monthly. So the mantra is to preserve liquidity, manage cost, and then to look at growth. And therefore, I think the expectation versus reality is that while many of us expected a relief package, this is not a relief package, it's a stimulus package. And while 20 lakh crores is talked about in terms of the total outlays, as rightly mentioned, about 1/10 of that is a real, fiscal, package. So it's about 1% of GDP, not 10% of GDP. 10% of GDP is the overall package, including about 40% of that which relates to RBI, measures of liquidity. Okay. Having said so, I don't think there was much choice available with the government. If you look at the fiscal deficit, which is around 6.5% of GDP, whether there was a lot of room available in terms of giving fiscal benefits like tax reduction, perhaps not. Government, I think, is also worried about the long-term growth of the economy. And if the further fiscal stimulus in terms of package is given, that would have increased fiscal deficit, which would have turned, affected your credit rating, and then flight of foreign capital, then crash of stock market, and then all negative effects of that. So I don't think this can be viewed only in terms of what is short-term coming to my pocket, but what's done for the economy in general. To that extent, I think it's a balanced one, because it talks about agriculture, talks about infrastructure, talks about MSME, talks about NBFC.
Because there's a certain amount and government has to take care of all sectors. Yeah, you're right.
All sectors. So I think focus is not perhaps on sectors. Focus is on society, particular sectors of society and not the sectors of industry. In terms of the people like poor people, migrant people, any farmers, animal husbandry people, all fishermen, these are the people who are in the focus. And rightly so, because that only can help us in terms of the getting to the consumption. Consumption is the bulk one. And for consumption, you need liquidity. Once that consumption comes, I think the flow of economy will run, and therefore that is the way ultimately growth will come.
Okay. Dr. Batra, do you want to take a question?
I want to ask Thomas, I want to talk to Dr. Velumani. Dr. Velumani, you sounded an optimistic note, but if you look at the health of the healthcare sector, in these 60 days itself, about 10,000 crores of organized healthcare revenue has been lost, because what the COVID is an add-on revenue. But if you look at your normal testing, I'm just taking you as an example. You look at the other diseases that or healthcare service that the hospitals will provide in this COVID time, that's been not done. So, and already the health of the healthcare sector was very, and I'm not counting the SME sector, which is neighborhood, so to say, healthcare centers, neighborhood doctor, your neighborhood clinic. So what do you think the government needs to do for the healthcare sector? Because the healthcare sector saves lives and hence creates livelihood. So the multiplier of the healthcare sector is much more than any other sector.
So as far as the business currently for the last 60 days and next 60 days for the healthcare business is very poor health. COVID has occupied, non-COVID, that is the business which was running has been completely brought to zero. No hospital, no doctor, no laboratory is today working on non-COVID. And COVID, government is leading, government hospitals are leading, government laboratories are leading. So this is where private healthcare system in India has been undergoing a tremendous pressure. Only I am telling what future is positive. Currently, it is very distressing. And I didn't want to talk about it because I am a positive man and I want to look tomorrow as a positive for the industry. If I talk about today, main bhi roega, aap bhi roega.
Vivek, at this point, I want to get Vivek Tiwari, who's the founder of Medica Bazaar. Vivek, you seem to be in a sweet spot. Your first generation, you built a healthcare medical devices marketplace, and it's technology enabled. It's in the healthcare sector. You've been super busy last 60 days. So tell us what has worked for you and the economy in this package, and what more can be done by the government to support the healthcare sector and economy overall.
Thank you, NewsX and Mr. Batra, for this nice introduction and having me here on the panel. So firstly, as an Indian, I would rather feel proud the economic stimulus package which has been announced by the government of India. I think it's a great move. It's 10% of the GDP. If we look at other developing countries, Japan announced like 21% of GDP, or the US announced 13% of GDP as their economic stimulus package. But I think a developing country like India, it's a great move. Now let me come to the healthcare sector. So as you know, and Dr. Velumani has already said, that our country is grossly underrepresented in terms of health system, and the present situation is really scary. What we are seeing today on ground is an evidence of fact that we have not done enough on the healthcare sector in the past. We are lucky to have such low number of cases, if by God's grace, and if it was like 500,000 or 1 million cases like other developed countries are facing, only God would have saved us. 1.1% spend on health in economy year on year is not something which can be thought about a country which has 1,300 million population. I think we are grossly underrepresented, and we have seen the real face of it. We have seen the kind of challenges the public health workers have been facing, whether it was availability of PPEs or ventilators or any kind of COVID. As COVID and non-COVID, we have segregated these two things. But we have seen the kind of challenges faced by health workers for COVID care is really challenging and really scary. Even I'm really not happy with the kind of budget which has been allocated considering our population and kind of requirement we have. 15,000 crore for healthcare sector is not adequate, let me tell you, because I have been in this industry in the midst of it, worked with a lot of private healthcare facilities, government healthcare systems. I think we need a total revamp on healthcare systems completely. We need to be really prepared for any such pandemic or any issues which are coming and hitting us badly in future. If we have a rising number of cases and if we are not able to contain them, only God can save us, and it will be really becoming a bit of challenge.
Hence, what is the outlay you would recommend for the healthcare sector? Give us your specific recommendation.
So, well, in my view, the healthcare infrastructure overall needs a major revamp. We have to put an outlay on healthcare infrastructure. We have to build hospitals. We are one of the lowest in number of beds per 1,000 population. We cannot have this in a country which is country like India, such a large country with so much of people around. We need to really put emphasis on the healthcare infrastructure. We need to also think in the long term, how can we improve the healthcare systems going forward? Using more and more technology, advancement in healthcare is the key today. So overall, the infrastructure is the key. That's what I would really want this to be taken as a short-term measure.
Before we take a break, let's get AS Rajgopal onto the discussion as well. AS Rajgopal, welcome. Thanks for your patience. Your first comments, your main takeaways from what we've heard from Ms. Sitharaman last week, and then we'll of course get to you on your expectations looking forward now.
Yeah, thanks Uday. Thanks Anurag. So I don't think the pandemic has played out yet. So in that sense, the way government approached it is more like don't change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. I think this is still more a reforms agenda rather than a stimulus agenda. I mean, if you see, it's about FDI increase in defense. It's about power sector reforms. I mean, so if you see, most of the emphasis has been around reforms. and which is good for the medium and long term. I mean, I agree that there is no happiness quotient, as Mr. Rajiv said. I think the critical factor that we need to understand is that at this point, the long term, I mean, the immediate term picture has not emerged yet, and there are both sides of story to it, in the sense that some people think that it's a rubber band effect. It will come back to normal very quickly once the pandemic is over. There are other thoughts, which are pretty dire in nature. Having said that, I don't think it is yet the time to take one side today. I don't do that with my business yet. So in that sense, I think government took a middle path. It is still on the reforms agenda, which is right for the country at this moment. Of course, I mean, there are a lot of things that could have been done in the reforms itself. I mean, for example, judiciary is one of the biggest hindrance for businesses in India. There could have been a lot done on the judiciary. I mean, simple things like, paperless judiciary. I mean, very simple things could have been done. So there are things to be done on the reform side as well. But I think the agenda is still reforms. The other important thing that I see is, I think because of this reforms, a lot of money will come back into the system. Okay. For example, if you take the power sector, our transmission losses are nearly about 40% of whatever power we generate. I mean, we lose it. I think if you take Tata Power, which is a private sector, which is managing distribution, actually operates at about 12% transmission. Right. So I think there's a lot we can do there. In terms of immediate terms, I think few things could have been done to actually improve this happiness quotient that Mr. Rajiv said. I mean, see, if you take the credit card spend, we spend roughly about 4 lakh crores, individuals on credit cards. Simple things like reducing, interest rates on credit cards and the penalties, could have actually brought back a lot of happiness quotient back into the.
The bank said that you can delay payments, but we'll still charge you for three months. Now that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Rajgopal is absolutely right in saying that these are medium-term and long-term reforms, but we need front-loading and we need survival, tactical measures now. That's I think what Mr. Rajgopal is saying.
Yeah, that's a point that has gained resonance with not just our panelists today, but in the previous days as well, Dr. Batra. Okay, I'm going to take a very short break now. We've heard all our panelists with their opening comments and their initial statements on the package and, of course, the road ahead. After the break, we'll throw it open to the panel. Everyone can jump in, dive right in, and we'll converse on the opportunities ahead for India and what really further can be done to initiate, continue, and of course further our growth story in the new world order post-COVID-19. After the break, much more coming up. Stay with us. Gauri?
Yeah, you can start there whenever you're ready.
Just give me a second. I'm just getting some water. 1 second.
So this happens live every day. Today, because one case was found in the NewsX office and there's some contact tracing happened there. They have a 180,000 square feet office in Okla. So contact tracing is happening, so it's being recorded. Otherwise, every day for the last 1 week, it's live. It's from the studio.
I think very interesting panel discussion.
And then it's also live on the Businessworld website. So normally it is live on the, we don't want to make it live, otherwise the thunder from the broadcast will play. So
okay, good to go. So
you see the recording icon still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, ready.
Okay. Welcome back from the break. You're watching this special NewsX Businessworld panel on the Indian economy and, of course, the economic stimulus announced by the government. Thanks for staying with us. Let's go straight across to Dr. Anurag Batra now, who's still live with us. Dr. Batra, we've heard the opening comments. Now, time to dive straight into the discussion with some of the, I think, the macro opportunities available for India in this new world order that we're speaking about. I spoke to the Israel ambassador, earlier today, and he was talking about how there is so much scope for India right now, and Israel, of course, prepared to help us. Similarly, there are going to be so many countries who want to collaborate with India in this new supply chain that will develop. So what are the opportunities? What are the sectors that need a thrust and focus right now?
Uday, over the last 6 days, when we've talked to entrepreneurs, industrialists, industry captains, CEOs of large companies, there are 5 themes that have emerged. If I had to sum up the last 5 days sentiment. 1, everyone is grateful for the package and sees that the government is making effort and welcomes the reforms. However, there are there are sectors that have not been accounted for, possibly because the government doesn't want a supply there. You know, they doesn't want this demand also to be there. Possibly they'll come in the second stage. Third is there was a expectation of a cash flow, support, because most SME entrepreneurs feel that they don't need a loan. They need a, so to say, a free capital. They don't need a loan. Fourth is, the fact is, even for what has been announced, there has to be granularity and execution. And fifth, that the government will have to do more over the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and continue to look at sectors. And wherever there is a sectoral intervention required, we'll have to do that. At this point, I want to come to Mr. A.S. Rajgopal. Mr. Rajgopal, technology. Today we are doing this broadcast through technology. Now, if technology is going to enable telemedicine, if technology is going to enable content, if technology is going to enable education, we've not done anything for the telecom sector. You come from a IT backbone sector. Now, what are the things that the government could have done specifically for your sector?
I don't think anything could have been done in the short term so quickly. But I think when government will announce these priority verticals where government will have a niche play and then there will be private players. I mean, I think telecom and IT will be one of those sectors. So at this point, I think I believe that government should take care of the poor and businesses should take care of the employees. But if you see, one of the reasons why people were actually indoors today is because technology enabled it. People have started watching more TV during daytime. I think it went up by about 40%. I mean, so it's technology which is enabled that we are not really bored at home. And in fact, for us, if you see, we've not gone down. I mean, we continue our business. Most of our revenues come from subscription revenue, so we don't actually see that downturn at all. In fact, I mean, we could have a revenue increase even in the first quarter. So we are doing pretty good. But be it healthcare, there is a lot that is happening on technology, and technology can actually accelerate whatever we have to do in terms of reaching the healthcare to the wide population of India. It's the same thing in education. I think there is a lot of work being done. Already there is, like if you take my children, they've been attending school, which is the good part. They are doing a 9 to 3 school because of technology. So I think education and healthcare, there is a lot that has started off already. If you see, all the businesses now are looking at digitization a lot more. So we are actually working on many new initiatives with most of our customers. Even Mehul's automotive industry is really looking at technology enabling the buying process. So across sector, there is, I see that technology.
Virtual drives. Can you test drive a car virtually?
No, I won't do that.
Yeah. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility, and today, it may happen faster than you and me think.
Yes.
So, it will happen. In a lot of sectors, e-demos have become a part of life. There are today, when you buy garments, there's technology where you can go into a technical glove and, you can touch and feel the garment. Today, you talk of, we were in a session with the AICP chairman, and today, inspection of educational institutions happening through virtual walkthrough. So, something we said never is happening. It's happening faster.
There are amazing examples, right? When we first got our phone at home, it took 6 years. And today there are too many phones at home. I think technology is now in everybody's reach. For example, in banking, last 20 years, I've never been to a bank branch. I only work online from 1998 to be precise. So I think technology is already there. Now more businesses are absorbing it.
So what I want to know from each panelist is, what is good in the package? What more can be done so that the government can take notice? Government knows everything, but sometimes good suggestions come can
Yeah.
come from anyone. Uday.
I think Rajiv Jain has a quick intervention to make, and then
Sure.
that's a very
So,
pertinent question you've asked. We'll take it.
Anurag, whatever Rajgopal has said, as an industry, as a wedding industry, I was on a session day before yesterday for Travel TV, and I was very clear that if we promote these Zoom webinars, if we promote the technology, our business will be finished. We are into business of experiences.
Yeah.
We are into business of relationship sharing. We are into business of physically experiencing. Our business can't happen with this. There were 1,700 people in that particular session, and I said to all the hoteliers that please do not promote this thing. If this gets promoted, we will see Switzerland happening on a Zoom call. And it's a huge industry. So for us, technology, for my industry, technology is no, जितना हो गया उतना काफी है. इससे ज्यादा ठीक है. आप सबके इंडस्ट्रीज के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी, हम टेक्नोलॉजी को प्रमोट करने में इससे ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है.
Only Rajiv can say this on a broadcast.
Yeah, but Anurag, just on that point, one thing I would also like to add. So, I strongly feel technology adoption, if anything, has magnified over the last 60 days. I think across age groups, suddenly comfort of people to deal with things on mobile or internet and to transact and to adopt or have Zoom calls or Google Talks across age groups. Like my parents are able to do that. I think that is incredible adoption. And what we are seeing as well is, like 30% people are willing to buy a car entirely online without having any physical touch, right? And it is incredibly difficult to imagine this would have happened otherwise. So I actually feel technology adoption might be the only silver lining out of this entire crisis.
Absolutely, and also the rural push of digital technology. I mean, look at the kind of global validation coming in for Geo at this point. From huge international
in
investment.
US, there is a company which only sells used car on a click of a button. You can't see it physically, and it's more than $10 billion valued at this point of time. In India, we don't have any such solutions, but now I think even as a company, Cars24 wants to pilot those answers which otherwise we never imagined would exist at this point of time. So we might have our opinions on it, may impact positively or negatively in the short run, but I think technology is here to stay, and it's better we all migrate and change ourselves towards dealing with it.
Do you want to, Dr. Batra, now do you want to throw that larger question open to the panel now?
I think I want to get in Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran. Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran, the private sector, the government. Tell us what the government can possibly do to answer some of the requests that the industry has. What is the leeway that the government has, and what can we expect more from the government? I know you always believe in self-reliance, but still, the government can be the biggest catalyst.
Before answering your question, Mr. Rajagopal raised an issue relating to the judicial reforms and all. And I must say, how the technology has evolved and developed and actually helping the judiciary. Today, Supreme Court hearings are taking place video conference without any difficulty whatsoever. No glitches. And arguments are going on, and the judges are very comfortable in muting, unmuting, and all the things. They're able to see the arguments. They're giving decisions, filing or e-filings. We don't have to go to Supreme Court. There is no need for crowding there, etc. I think it is going to go stay. They're just for information. And one more thing also, Rajagopal, we always feel, and then it is correctly also.
Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran, then what happens to the chai wala in Supreme Court? The guy who runs the canteen. You are clearly not thinking about him.
Sir, he will do something else. Sir. Don't worry, sir. All these people will all find another. Our entrepreneurs are really enterprising, sir. Don't worry, sir. They will provide some solution to you. Don't worry. Now, with regard to the judiciary, we always say there is a lot of pendency. I agree. But look at the type of new legislations coming in, new business method coming in, new technologies coming in. Existing laws are not able to take care of the new development of technology and business methods. It is judiciary has to come in. And the number of judges created and the number of legislations have been coming in, there is a disproportionate thing. And therefore, there is exodus of files and disputes coming in and the limited number. So therefore, I would say, I won't say sympathize, but we must really understand the position of the judiciary, and they work very hard. I must tell you, I've been practicing the Supreme Court last about 30 years or so. They work much more than a lawyer. I'm telling you that. They're really. and the lawyers are paid disproportionately high as against the, I mean, I don't mind saying that. I'm not talking about all lawyers, but at least I should make a confession before this audience here. But as compared to these lawyers or sports persons or film personalities and other things, etc., who are paid high, as against that, if you the doctors or the researchers, etc., I think the disparity is very, very stark naked.
Okay.
I think something needs to be done on that particular thing. But coming back to the Mr. Batra's question, what government can do? I can do. If they don't do anything, sir, we'll be better off. Just leave it in peace. If the tax administration or compliance, etc., are taking place online, etc., for 2 years or 1 year, if you don't touch them, etc., I think economy will boom. So I would say, as far as the government is concerned, on the compliance side and also from the judicial side, legal side, if they leave the economy intact without getting into further difficulties, I think the economy will boom. I'm telling you. In fact, they say India economy develops in the night, not in the daytime.
Okay, very interesting. Interesting argument put forth there. Dr. Parekh, I think, wanted to come in earlier. Dr. Parekh, yes, you had a point to raise.
First of all, I think you must be aware that Zydus Cadila is in news for quite some time for two main reasons. One, we are one of the largest global manufacturers of HCQS, which is the treatment which is generally advocate. And two, we are working on the vaccines. So my expectation from the ministry in terms of short-term measure would be that governments would go on subsidizing the clinical trials for treatment of COVID as well as the vaccine development for COVID-19 to the extent of at least 50%. That would give a faster way, and many other people would come forward for development of vaccine. That is one. The second, in terms of the long-term measures for pharma industry, there was a weighted deduction of 200% on R&D, which was earlier allowed, which is in the last year now, completely withdrawn, in the sense that it's only 100% spent. I think India needs the 200% weighted deductions to promote pharma industry and researching pharma industry, which is significantly lower than many developed countries. And secondly, in the light of this new possibility of bringing manufacturing facility from neighboring countries to India, India anyway is a very cost-efficient generic manufacturer. If the government gives some impetus in terms of giving capital subsidy and other help in terms of interest cost, etc., I think India can become a major power for global manufacturing of pharma products. As a Zydus, we are already doing this for large manufacturers in terms of joint venture. Like we work for Pfizer, there's a joint venture of 50% with Pfizer, with Takeda, which is the largest again Japanese manufacturer. We have successfully done this kind of partnership for decades, and that offers a very successful model of doing partnership with global players. And if India seizes this opportunity in time, I think we would be much better off.
Yeah, Uday, I have a point to make.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I think we've all been asking something from the government. I actually want to ask the businesses for something. I mean, just to bring in a perspective. I've seen companies looking at reducing 10%, 20% of their employee count, which is not, it's not creating that happiness quotient, right? I mean, it's creating a fear in the employees. The way I see it is, if we are in service industry, our employee cost is roughly about 17% of our cost structure. So we knock off 10 or 20%, on the overall cost structure, it becomes 2 or 4% of the overall cost structure. It doesn't really matter. So I think if people start seeing it much more objectively rather than being very reactive and sacking people, I think we are creating an overall impact across the businesses that things are not very well. I think we should look at a possibility that, we need this talent to be available when things go back to normal, and it's a small investment or a small expense in today's terms. So if you can sustain that for this short period, I think it does very well for the economy in the long term.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Rajagopal. I agree with you totally. I think this is exactly what business should do now at this point of time. I thank you.
Why don't we get a reaction from business, Vivek? Before I get to Dr. Batra.
You heard everyone. Now I know you raised $40 million before the pandemic for your venture, and you're in a sector that is automatically growing. As the healthcare sector grows, the supplies grow. But if the health of the healthcare sector and the health of the economy is not good, how will you grow as an entrepreneur? When you talk to your other fellow entrepreneurs what is the sentiment you get? And be real on this show.
Sir, actually, I mean, we are a consumption-based economy. So I think we have so many people. It is not related to production and all that. So we will consume. So in my view, that matter of few months, I think we will start consuming back. I'm not saying that we will grow, but all I'm saying is that the impact may not be so bad as we are assuming, because and most of it is actually essentials that we consume, because the population which is actually capable of doing discretionary spends is actually very small.
Yeah, but you know what happens to ventures that in the next 60 days, 90 days die because they have no cash flow support, there are no sales happening.
Yes.
So, you know, that is a reality too.
Yeah.
You know, we've already lost more than 2 crore jobs if you look at the job data. So Vivek, what happens when we are dealing with such a situation? Vivek Tiwari of Medica Bazaar?
Yeah. Thank you, Anurag. I think the question was marked to me, but it's okay. Okay, so just speaking my mind, you know, I've been talking to fellow entrepreneurs. I've been talking to a lot of people in the startup sector. I think the situation is not good. Overall, you know, different startups into different sectors, operating in different sectors, have been reeling under immense pressure. There have been layoffs and job cuts. They are really struggling for bouncing back and survival. Even though we are in healthcare, we are in the midst of a storm. We are looking at supplies, but liquidity in healthcare is also a major challenge. As brought by Dr. Velumani, that the present status healthcare facilities are non-functional for last 60 days, and there have been massive pay cuts happening across in hospitals and in medical facilities. It is really not good to have situation. So overall, while everybody thinks that everything is great about medical industry or healthcare industry, I can tell you this much: everything is not great here. We are under immense pressure. If there is no liquidity, there can't be any business. Obviously, you know, while we see on the surface of it that there is enough COVID supplies happening, there are enough opportunities which are coming up for medical supplies and all those related items or related products. But overall, the sector is not doing great. We really look forward to revive this sector. I think the allocation, as I was mentioning, the allocation of about 15,000 crores, something 9,774 crores in the midterm, and then looking at 1 to 4 years kind of budgeting in the medium term is not good enough for healthcare sector. And moreover, I would also want to add one special point here. While our country is quite sufficient now in terms of a lot of supplies and all, government should open up exports immediately, because that would bring a lot of currency in, because other countries are taking a lot of opportunity away from India. We should be self-sustaining, self-surviving. I don't find a reason why we should have a prohibition when our country is fully sufficient to even export masks or something like that. You know, we have major requests coming from different countries.
Dr. Velumani, we're running short of time. Dr. Velumani, your initial expectation, what the government can do, what is still feasible, what's in their hand, what is realistically what you expect in the days ahead. You'll have to just unmute yourself, Dr. Velumani. Yeah, perfect.
The Prime Minister announced a package. The stock market did not move up. The Finance Minister told what is that in that. The stock market did not move. Railways announced 200 trains will run. Stock market moved. Today, I think air traffic is open. Today, stock market is moving. And you know what will move the stock market by now. Having said that, in the entire world, India is cheapest in healthcare. And even in India, healthcare will become much cheaper going forward. It has unleashed the telemedicine potentials, which was conservatively kept. This telemedicine growth and the digital India growth will ensure that even to the remotest villages, there will be better quality at an affordable cost at a much, much appreciated speed. So I am very positive that healthcare will boom, and it only needs to unlock. If unlocking is not safe, we can't help it. But if you unlock everything, the economy will automatically come back to where it was.
Okay.
But then what happens to the lives, Dr. Velumani? what about lives? I mean, livelihoods also safeguard lives.
Yeah.
But what happened to the lives? You know,
Dr. Batra, worldwide, in the Western countries, it is 250 deaths per million. India is 2 deaths per million. क्या डर रहे हो?
Agreed.
क्या डर रहे हो और क्यों डर रहे हो?
trade-off.
बिल्कुल नहीं सही
Yeah,
बात
you know,
है.
I would
interesting view.
also, you know, I
Okay,
would like to
I
add-
think we're completely out of time, but Dr. Batra always likes to close with the last word from all our panelists. It's
so
like a
I
rapid
would like
fire.
to get
Dr.
some
Batra, what are you going to ask them
three
today? An
words.
idea, 3 words? Go ahead. Why don't you ask them a rapid
An
fire?
idea that can unlock the economy. It can be in 3 words, 4 words, but
Yeah.
not more than 5 words. We'll
Yes.
start with Rajiv. An idea that can unlock the economy.
Open the economy.
Open the economy. Dr. Velumani.
निकल पड़ो, रास्ता अपने आप बनेगा.
Nikal Pado. So unlock. We have the lowest mortality rates. We are now ready. So open up the economy. Vivek Tiwari.
I think reviving MSME as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Mehul Agarwal.
immediate demand stimulus.
Nitin Parekh.
Be positive. सफर में धूप तो होगी, तुम भी चल सको तो चलो.
क्या बात है. Last but not the least, Mr. Rajgopal. You have the last word, sir.
No, Lakshmi Kumaran also.
Yes.
Okay, I think technology will enable the revival.
So more investments in technology.
Yes. Lakshmi Kumaran, you also want to have a last word?
I would say lawyers do well when the economy is doing well. Lawyers do better when the economy is not doing well.
Okay.
So let not lawyers do well.
At the end of the day, it's very important to see positivity even in the time of adversity. And I think that's what we are attempting to do through these special panel discussions. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of our NewsX Businessworld economic panel discussion. We'll, of course, continue these conversations and, hopefully together build a stronger and more resilient India even after this COVID-19 pandemic ends. For today, thank you so much to all of our guests for joining us. Thanks to our viewers also for being with us. We'll be back with lots more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Uday. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you all.